is the YourLiveEvent.com Coaches Show. It's presented to you by the Hillsborough Economic Development Corporation. I'm Chase Miller. This week on the program, we'll chat with Amy Johnson of Ada-Borup-West softball and also speak with Thompson Tommy softball head coach. That is Matt Chandler. And our softball conversation continues with Scott Kost of the Central Cass Squirrels and Sam Brandt of the Kindred-Richland Vikings. We'll also be talking a little Hawley Nuggets softball and Norman County East UM Hitterdall baseball with Jesse Rostad. And our senior spotlight this week is Derek Carpenter of the Hatton-Northwood Thunder. But let's get into our conversation on the YourLiveEvent.com Coaches Show with Amy Johnson speaking with our own Jake Berkemeyer.
It's the Your Live Event Coaches Show with Amy Johnson, head coach for Ada-Borup-West Cougars softball, as winding down the preseason, getting ready for the regular season to get going. Weather holds, should be out on the field on Thursday afternoon, and all the time to get ready for that, the preseason. How has practice been so far, Amy?
Practice has been going well. We did spend our first couple weeks indoors, which wasn't bad. And then last week we were able to get outside. So I think we are feeling very fortunate that we actually got to go outside before our first game this year. So I feel like our preseason has gone really well. Participation numbers wise, how are we looking here, varsity or even 7 through 12? 7 through 12, I have 24 girls out. Varsity will be about 12 girls. My numbers are down a little bit this year, but it's just kind of how things go sometimes. But I feel like that's not going to be the worst thing in the world. We will play 2 games every night. I'll have 2 teams every night, and those girls they'll get a lot of innings this spring. So I guess if I have to look at it, in the silver lining, there is that.
Yeah, there's that for those that are coming back with experience. It's good to keep playing. For those that need to gain the experience, they're going to get it. But what do you have coming back to lead the team with those experienced rosters?
I have 3 seniors on my roster. Actually, 4 seniors on my roster, 3 returning, and then Alex Tingham came out this year. The 3 returning seniors are Joey Jones, Holly Flum, and Callie Solsing. And then Alex comes as a senior, and I just feel like, she's been in other sports, and so she'll, this is not her first time either as a senior leader. So I'm looking to those 4 definitely to lead our team. They do a nice job in practice. They are vocal. They're willing to help out, run drills. So I'm definitely looking to those girls to be our leaders.
As you got outside last week, you can really see how the development has gone with the hitting, the pitch, and the defense. Are all those pieces, have we knocked the rust off? Or are we coming together?
A little bit, yeah. We did a little bit, we did quite a bit of live pitching and hitting inside in the cage, and we haven't done as much yet outside. That'll kind of be our goal the next few days. But yeah, you can definitely tell, like that first day outside is a little scary with real balls and such. So I'm happy that this year it wasn't at a game. But yeah, they're coming around. You can just tell, some of these seniors, juniors, even the sophomores, they had a good year under their belt from last year, and, they've taken that step up, and things are progressing nicely.
What are you, as the coach or the girls, or the players, looking forward to most with this first game, fingers crossed, here against Cass Lake Bena on Thursday?
They're just excited to play on our home field. The last couple of years has been difficult to play on our field. The conditions have been so wet. And so this looks like we're actually going to play our first game on our field. And they're excited to get out there and play. They're a little jealous. Baseball's been out there a few games now, but they are ready to compete against somebody that's not their own teammate. It's always nice to get that first game under your belt, see where you need to work on or what you need to work on, and go from there.
For the season outlook, goals, expectations, where do the girls look at that you want to be here when we get to that end of May?
For us, sometimes it takes us a little bit of time to get there, but we want to be playing our best softball during playoffs. That's kind of the goal. Last year our season kind of ended not early, but it ended early for what we'd like. The year before they made a little bit of a run, and that's always the goal. You want to be playing your best softball when playoffs come around, and that's what we're working towards.
Helping you work towards it too. Let's talk coaching staff. Who's helping you out this year?
So far, Trevor Stewart is my assistant, and it's just the 2 of us at this time.
All right, back again here for another year, and Well, looking forward to the year. Hopefully, a lot of blizzards this year going to be out there for the team as well too. But
that's always the goal. We did play a game in practice the other day called the bucket game, and I owe 2 blizzards as of right now. But I always tell the girls, like, absolutely, that is the goal, to get as many blizzards off of me as you possibly can during the year. So we're looking forward to it.
There we go. And maybe a dilly bar from Coach Stewart or something like that.
Right. Anything. Dairy Queen's our favorite.
Well, very good. Amy, thanks for the time here to come and chat with that. Looking forward to seeing you guys get on the field on Thursday, and I'll catch up with you here throughout the season as well.
Thank you.
Amy Johnson, head coach, Ada-Borup-West Cougar softball.
On the Coaches Show here this week, we're chatting Thompson softball here as the Lady Tommies, they're already underway. We'll talk about their first game of the season here in just a little bit. But, Coach, thanks for the time, and I'm sure it's great to be back on the diamond.
Yeah, it's, it was a great winter, and everybody had their hopes up of getting started early this year. And I think in my 9 seasons, this is the earliest we've been outside.
Let's talk about the expectations coming into this year. You've made every single state tournament that's been contested. I'll say that because, of course, of COVID 2020 didn't happen. But since 2018, you guys have been on a roll making the state tournament. And 2 out of the last 3 years, your ladies have made the state title game, coming up just a little bit short. But your thoughts on where the program has gone in the 9 years you've been here?
I've been blessed with some really good athletes, and to be successful, you have to have kids that can do a lot of things. And not only have our girls had success in softball, but in track, in volleyball, and in basketball, and they almost have built up the expectations themselves that their goal is to win a state tournament. And we don't necessarily set our goal as making it to the state tournament, because if you're not fortunate enough to make it, I don't want you to look at your season as a failure. But I think subconsciously that's their goal every year, and it's no different this year.
Of course, it's an interesting situation you have roster-wise, as you have a quartet of seniors, but the rest of your team, sophomores and freshmen, you bring back a couple of big pieces, of course, in Cindy Schwabe and Drew Schwab in the circle. Your thoughts on the team you have this year?
Yeah, we're young, but you look at our sophomore class. A lot of those girls have played in a state tournament or 2 state tournaments. Maya and Kaya played as 8th graders. So on paper, we look young, but the experience that they have, they're not so youthful. But we got some freshmen that can really play. What I appreciate about our girls, which makes my life easier, is we're really versatile. I have kids that, you can play outfield, you can play infield, I can slide you over to first base. I can't say enough good things about the seniors that graduated last year, but the reality is we don't have them anymore. And those girls were 4- and 5-year starters. So we got some kids that are pretty green and in the positions that we need replaced. And thanks to our versatility, I can plug and play some different kids there.
I imagine that having Drew Schwab back in the circle is a huge benefit for your ladies to at least have that anchor in place. Yeah,
last 2 years, it's really been a rotation between Drew and Sydney, playing a doubleheader. Those 2 are going to pitch 1 game each, and that's huge. Anytime you can have your pitching back, you'll have a little bit of consistency from season to season, and they're not pitchers that are going to blow people away, but they're going to throw strikes, and our goal is to put a defense behind them that's going to make plays and score enough runs to win. And they've done that. And Sydney took the ball in her first game and did exactly what we asked of her. And I expect no different from them the rest of the season.
A great tandem, at the very least, a luxury to be able to have that secondary option. Not a lot of teams have that, but as you mentioned, some youth, some spots to fill, and I got to think maybe the offense was a key factor or lack thereof in that 9-4 loss to BGMR to open up the season.
Yeah, getting started earlier in the year, you don't have a lot of offensive reps outside, and it's a different view when you're hitting live outside versus indoors in a cage. And I think we had 13 hits in the game. They weren't the timely ones. we had a few youthful mistakes where we kind of ran ourselves out of innings offensively. But things that we can definitely fix. And BGMR has historically been a solid program, and they don't make the mistakes. And caught up with us a little bit. But I was pleased for our first time out.
Looking ahead at your upcoming schedule, you don't get back to Thompson for another couple weeks. You're at Larimore and at Carrington. You already get to region play. Yeah,
we're going to be road warriors. I think next week we have 7 varsity contests, and we're in Carrington this week, then to Larimore, and Pembina County comes to town next week for one. But then out to Dickinson, and it's kind of a blessing. We did an irrigation project on our field, and we need a little bit more time to get the grass to grow here. So, but they're ready to go, and kids enjoy getting out of school too.
You've got it's another great schedule that you guys have put together up there at Thompson. Brady Schwab, of course, and yourself doing a nice job. You've got right after a team that was also in the semifinals, state semifinals last year, Mayport CG. You've got 4 consecutive Class A matchups out there. Dickinson, Jamestown, Mandan, Minot North making their debut, and Minot High. Your thoughts on that Class A experience right away in the season?
It's all in preparation for the end of the season. You want to schedule games that are going to challenge you and not necessarily be considerate of the outcome of the game. There's many invaluable experiences that we're going to pick up along the way here, and you get to see pitchers of different caliber, and it's all in an effort to prepare us for the stretch run in May, and it should be fun.
Stretch run in May, of course. You get back to regional competition after that. Northern Lights, Midway Minto. You got, of course, some Region 1 opponents, Central Cass, Kindred-Richland. You have another Class A opponent in Grand Forks Central, and then you go out to some powers out in Class B West, Belvidere Ganamoose, Botno, throwing West Fargo Horse in there. It's going to be a pretty good, pretty fun schedule. We'll have a couple games as well. Matt, anything else you want to mention as far as Thompson girls softball as we get right into it?
No, it'll be an exciting season. It's going to be a competitive region. Mayville brings back their whole squad, and they're probably the favorite. Formed a nice rivalry against them the last few years, and they've edged us out in the region tournament. But there's some teams on the rise. Pembina County's made some really nice strides, and Langdon and Carrington. I think our region, Grafton's always competitive. I think our region play is going to be really fun, and the goal of anybody is to prepare you for that region tournament and hopefully a state tournament, and it should be an exciting season. Hopefully everybody gets to play a lot of games with this beautiful weather.
We hope so too. Again, we have a couple of games of yours on the schedule here on yourliveevent.com. You can go check out our schedule for the full details on that. But that's the head coach for Thompson Girls Softball, Matt Chandler, joining us on the Your Live Event Coaches Show this week. Matt, best of luck for you and the ladies, and we'll see you down the road.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for everything you guys do.
Hey growers, when working on your water management solutions, call Chad's Excavating out of Mayville. They are your water management contractor, helping you with tile drainage plans, service drainage plans, or both. Remember, water management is a lifetime investment. Call Chad 701-430-0182 to get your water problem solved. For more information, follow Chad's Excavating on Facebook. For tile drainage and service plans, call 701-430-0182. Chad's Excavating out of Mayville, helping farmers grow.
Do you want that new boat? Are you building onto your home? Maybe you want the new camper or ATV. Dakota Heritage Bank can help you. This is Dustin Nagel, president at Dakota Heritage Bank Hillsborough location. You can visit with me or our other loan officers to help with loans and lines of credit from Dakota Heritage Bank. We are serving you with locations in North Dakota and Northwest Minnesota. Dakota Heritage Bank offers financial services you expect with a local perspective. dhbanknd.com. Dakota Heritage Bank, Equal Housing Lender, member FDIC.
There's more at 104. Hillsborough, North Dakota has everything you need on your next road trip. Food, fuel, fun, and family-friendly activities. Stop by and fill up your tank or grab a bite to eat. Have a blast at Goose River Golf Club, the swimming pool, or one of our beautiful parks. There's even ice skating and cross-country skiing. Take in the sights or stay the night so you don't miss a thing. Experience Hillsboro and see why there's more at 104.
It's now time to turn our attention to the softball diamond. Joining us from the Central Cass Squirrels, he is the head coach. Is Scott Kost here. As we were chatting off air a little bit, Scott, so to speak, before the interview started. Nice to look at 60s and 70s for temperature highs instead of 30s, and another inch or two of snow coming up here. So I know you got a handful of games this week scheduled. You're hoping to get out to the Queen City and Dickinson next week to get a handful of games out there. So a lot funner time, I would say, from a coach's perspective, seeing the schedule, knowing that you're probably going to be outside to practicing in games, and compared to last year, where every Monday, I'm sure, was, Scott, when are we going to be able to play games, when it came to parents and students and athletes, because you truthfully didn't know a year ago at this time here, Scott.
Yeah, this has been a great spring. It'll be a spring to remember. We've been able to be outside every week so far. It looks like we're going to get games in coming up here pretty quick. And so it really, the ability to get real work in and not have to work in a gym, it's better for the kids. It's better for the coaches. It's just better for the sport.
The one thing is, taking a look at players, and every year you get a group of girls who graduate, and some come back in with a ton of varsity experience. Others maybe didn't get an opportunity to play too much varsity, whether it be whether because they're sitting behind someone who's really good in front of them, Scott. But when you start with a Grace Fletchock, when you got an Aspen Preen, a Whitney Mitchell, for those three, just in general, really good batters at the plate, but really good in terms of what they can do defensively in their roles as well.
Yeah, every year I talk about softball every season. It's kind of like putting a puzzle together. So, and some years you've got more pieces missing than others. And we graduated a lot of seniors last year, a lot of leadership, but I really am impressed with the kids that we do have coming back. We were able to get Whitney and Sophie Shorewhite and Aspen some varsity time last year. Grace is a great leader for us. And so, she's been able to pick things up, as well as Paige. And so I feel pretty good about how we are moving into the year so far.
The one thing I know when it talks to high school, whether it's baseball or softball, throw strikes, right? Have a good combination there with the battery, and Grace can do that. That's number one. But also Natalie Fontaine has been someone then the number two spot that you're kind of looking at here. So what do you hope to see from both Grace and Natalie specifically in the circle here this season, Scott?
Yeah, Whitney will be our number one pitcher. And then Natalie, I really like what I've seen from her so far this spring. She worked hard over the off season. She's had a really, really good spring. She got to get a few innings in against Hawley in a scrimmage that we had here on Friday, and really like what I see out of her so far.
The one thing when you get to this time, can you have too many pitchers, or is having two or three pitchers at what point in high school athletics, right? And I know people will say, geez, they can throw 100 pitches one day and they throw 100 pitches the next day, different from sport, from baseball to softball. But what's it better, Scott? Is it good to have two or three where you can say, here's my three horses and let's go out there? Or is it good to have, 7, 8, 9 pitchers and you're looking to get people innings, in that circle?
Sometimes I don't think you can ever have enough pitching, Chase. So I start with that perspective. And sometimes it can be a little bit challenging to get everybody innings. We've got our number 3 pitcher is a really, really solid pitcher. She's a sophomore. We've got to make sure we find innings for her, as well as a couple of others. So sometimes that can be challenging, but I would rather have too much pitching than too little. So that's the way we operate.
And then this one, what's it been like now a couple of years that you've been able to have that, turf on the softball diamond? How has that just helped the program in general, Scott, whether it's get games in, whether it's get out, to practice, obviously? What has that been like from your mentality, instead of having to wait when it was snow or rain and trying to see if you could get the dirt, kind of dragged through properly? How's that kind of been the last handful of years?
It's been really, really good. We're really blessed to have that turf. We had to do very, very limited shoveling this year just to clear some things off after that last little storm that we had go through here. And the turf dries off. So even the rain we got over the weekend here, we're going to be able to be on the field for practice tonight. And we're just really, really blessed to be able to have that. And with a young team and the need to get some work in and to get repetitions in, and again, to not have to do that in a gym, is I think a real benefit to our program.
What has helped, seeing some girls that have came on to play collegiately? I take a look at like a Katie Sinner and some others who've played minutes, not minutes, so to speak. I'm so used to basketball still, but have gotten at bats, gotten in the circle, been able to do a number of things. Scott, what's it like with that middle school or elementary school girls, seeing those girls continue? Peyton Nelson, a lot of people will remember as well, seeing what she was able to do for Central Cass, seeing them move on to the next level, and for some continuing to play at the sport that you've been able to coach them. What's that like from a coach's perspective, seeing the next generation of girls that maybe want to emulate what Katie was like, at the plate?
Yeah, well, first of all, I love keeping track of the graduates from our program and being able to watch them be successful, not even just in sports, but in life. And then, we really have a solid 7th and 8th grade group coming through right now. And I do think those numbers are heavily influenced by the kids that came before them. So the legacy they've left, whether it has been success in the program or success after they've graduated from Central Cass. I think we have 4 Central Cass grads that are helping coach this year. I really do think that they've had a very positive influence on our ability to keep our numbers up, and the future looks bright here.
This one thing where a lot of people have said, once softball became actually, part of the curricular with the North Dakota High School Activities Association, it seemed like it went by wildfire, right? You saw co-ops coming together, different schools. Do you still see those numbers from what it was 5-10 years ago, Scott? Or is there a little plateau roughly within Central Cass or just the state of softball? Or is it, hey, there's still a lot of girls who are getting their first taste or action? There's schools that are, given the opportunity when you're looking at, scheduling, so to speak, every year?
Yeah, I do think it has plateaued a little bit. I think that's unfortunate. We actually talked about this at our coaches meeting this fall. And especially on the eastern side of the state right now, we've got to figure out how we're going to get some more teams involved. I think there's some communities here that either have a strong baseball tradition, or they have they played slow pitch softball. They have a strong athletic tradition. And we really do feel like, we're a little bit short on numbers of teams here on the eastern part of the state, especially in Class B. And so I do think that that's something that's going to require some focus here. And we as coaches and athletic directors talked about that here at our last coaches meeting.
If I take your team out of it, Scott, I like to ask a lot of coaches, whether it's the region or the state, give me some other teams that are going to be competitive this year that are either locally in the region that you're competing in, Region 1, which we always know there's a handful of good teams that can make some noise once they get through their Region 2 a state tournament, or some teams that you have on your schedule that you might say, hey, if we're fortunate enough to get to the Buffalo City, we might have to contend and go through them to win a state title.
Within our region specifically, we've had a good competitive region with, especially games against Hankinson and Hillsboro and Kindred have always been really good games. And I'm expecting all 3 of those programs to be strong in our region. Up in Region 2, Mayport has a very strong team that's come back of athletes that are going to be good. And obviously Thompson returns most of their starters from last year's team that was the runner-up. So I would expect them to be tough. Beulah is the defending state champion and has a strong core of players that's coming back. Renville County still has their top pitcher that is tough as nails, and so I'm expecting them to be good. And I think out west as well, you'll see a Des Lacs and a Velva and some of the teams that have traditionally been strong. Those are the teams that I would expect to kind of be in the fight here at the end.
2 more things for you, Scott, before I let you go. I know last year it was a tough year at the very end in Kindred there with Hillsboro, into that opportunity to get to state. What was it like, though, for the girls coming back to maybe not have the bullseye on their back as a state champ? And I know people are going to say Central Cass softball, you still got to get through them to get to where you want to go because of the program that you've built and sustained there, Scott. But how has that hunger at all been, maybe driven up a little bit into the off season in terms of this softball team, even though there is maybe some different faces that maybe weren't part of that varsity team, so to speak, last year with graduation?
A couple thoughts on that, Chase. One is we talked about that on the very first day of practice before we ever even picked up a ball. We talked about how the season ended last year and what do we want to do with that? And I do think the girls have taken a very healthy approach to it. We're not dwelling on that. All streaks come to an end. They just do. And so we're not dwelling on that. I think the second thing is because we are so young, not having that burden of a 4-in-a-row streak or anything like that. I do think that is, I'm kind of glad that these girls don't have to carry that. I think it's going to allow them to relax and you know, they got to set their own path right now. And what's happened in the past at Central Cass, whether it was last year or over the last 10 years, this is their year. And this is their opportunity to see what they can do. And you know, maybe we'll get a new streak started here.
Final thing for you, Scott, the first couple weeks of the season before you flip the calendar to May, and then I know that Region 1 softball tournament sooner rather than later, so to speak, on the schedule. What do you want to see from your team the first couple times they get out onto the field, win, lose, or draw, whether it's against Class A, it's a region game, non-region? What do you want to see from your club?
You know, our game plan, what we always look for is we start with pitching and defense, you know, throwing strikes and playing good defense, making the plays that we have to make. One thing we've really worked hard on so far the first 2 weeks of practice here is we've really focused on better at bats, and you know, putting together good at bats. I think part of what plagued us last year is that some of our bats just weren't good, especially in key situations where we just weren't able to get the bat on the ball. And that's one of the things we've really focused on. So early in the year here, that's what I'm looking for. I'm really looking for the kids that can put a good at bat together, battle, get the ball in play, and let's see what happens.
Scott, as always, thanks so much for your time. Looking forward to seeing you at a softball diamond near you pretty quickly, okay?
Sounds good, Chase. Thanks so much for the coverage. We really appreciate it.
That again, Scott Kost, head coach for the Central Cass Squirrels on the softball diamond, will continue after this. Joining us now, part of our coaches show from the Kindred-Richland Vikings. She is the head softball coach. That is Sam Brandt here, as they're already well into their season, a handful of games in, and it's going to get a lot busier, barring Mother Nature, over the next couple of weeks. But that's the one thing, Sam, talking with spring coaches this year, it feels like a night and day difference compared to the last couple of seasons where you're actually able to get on the field, you're able to get games in, you don't have to sit, you know, so to speak, in the gym and just keep hitting in a batting cage, you know, on repeat. So what's the mentality been like from a coach's perspective and the player's perspective, knowing I can look outside and it's 50, 60, 70 degrees and you're actually going to get the games in that are scheduled, you know, this time in April?
Yeah, I feel like the spring season is a short season to begin with, and there's no happy medium. There's no like satisfied amount of time of practice before you play because you're just so eager to play, and there's not a satisfying amount of time inside. You know, we were inside for about 5 practices. And then we had wet, rainy day yesterday, and all the girls were like, "We're inside, right?" And I said, "No, absolutely not. Why are we going back inside?" So once we're in it, we want to be in it. This season goes by so fast, and we want to play as many competitive games as we can. Hopefully Mother Nature just allows us to do all of the things that we want to do. And we're very glad that this spring season has started on time compared to last year.
Yeah, last year it seemed like everybody was just trying to find dates to get games in and make, you know, triangulars to get games in at one particular point for region counters. And you got a handful of region games coming up here in a row before you got Mayport CG for another non-region. So as you get into these region games, Sam, what do you want to see from your team and those counters that really do matter in terms of positioning yourself for that Region 1 tournament, eventually trying to make a run to the Buffalo City coming up?
Yeah, and every game is super important for us. We want to make sure that we are improving during at-bats. As far as how we're swinging the bat, we want to make sure that we are learning from mistakes and errors and understanding where we're supposed to be going with the ball and communicating that way. We talked earlier, and I feel like my girls are I have a very experienced team, and they're almost impatient. They want to move through things so fast, and they want to start doing everything they possibly can to be prepared. So that's great to see as a coach. But I don't want to rush through the fundamentals. The fundamentals are what make you great and make the consistency of the game great. So I want to see some energy. I want to see everybody hitting through the lineup. I want to see consistent defense. And I want to see them making sure they're improving every inning.
The one thing about this, too, you got 6 seniors on the roster, and you mentioned a team that made it to state last year in a very competitive Region 1 that had everybody just seemed like they had an ace on the hill that was in the top 3, if you want to say, in the circle that at any given night could, you know, kind of take care of a lineup, or you put ball in play and maybe run the bases a little bit with what your squad is able to do, Sam. So what do you hope to bring back from that experience from last year, knowing that it was such a quick season, that this year you can actually hopefully get through some of the quote unquote growing pains from April before you turn that calendar over into May?
Yeah, we really set our schedule up to play a lot of games to be ready for the end of May. I want last year to be part of the journey and the motivation and the drive to be able to finish where we want to finish this year. These kids have the capability of being in that state championship tournament in that game. And they have to understand that just showing up isn't enough, and we're really trying to get across that you need to do everything in your power that you have control over to contribute. Bring the energy and don't suck it away, So these kids are really excited for the season. I have a great group of seniors. I've got 6 of them this year. They're vocal and super excited for our younger kids that joined new this year and on our C squad and our JV. I've got this great group of kids that want to be successful and have the ability to be successful. I just want to make sure that they're putting everything together to get there.
And someone here like a Brea Mauk, what has she provided this year's version of the Vikings here, Sam?
Brea is the one that asks the hard questions, the questions that nobody probably else asks. As a player, some of the things that she sees and some of the things that she'll speak up about, I'm like, absolutely, you're all right. And I'm surprised by it that she can, the IQ of the game sometimes surprises me with her questions, but she's put a lot of work in this year and she's bringing a big bat to the table, consistent defense. She's just a kid that wants everyone around her to succeed, and she wants to put in the time and the effort to make sure that she's contributing as well. So great kid, super excited to see where her senior year brings her, and maybe even after that.
And then, Avery Ammerman, she's played that third base for you. It seems like for maybe 5-10 years for some coaches. She's been there in some capacity, Sam, for quite some time. So not just in terms of her fielding, but also she has a pretty good bat as well. What do you hope that she provides this season?
Yeah, I want Avery just to show confidence in every aspect. She's got the ability, the strength, the experience. She's capability of really making a difference for her team. And that's what 100% we're working on and working towards the end of May. She's a great kid, always smiling, really enjoys her position and knows it well. And between her and Leah next to each other on the left side of the field, they're a dynamic duo that is tough, real tough for anybody to get through. So she brings such a great aspect to the table with some consistency and power, and always just knowing like she can be improving and doing the things and asking the questions that how can she bring more to the table for a team? And that's 100% what we need from every player, is that unselfishness.
Taking your team out of it here, Sam, whether it's locally in terms of the East or Region 1 or just statewide here, who are going to be some teams that are going to be competitive that you say, hey, they got a really good chance to make it to Jamestown, that kind of that last weekend into first weekend of June coming up?
Yeah, Royal Blue versus Red is always such a big, high stake, high pressure game. Playing Castleton is always such a rival for us. And I know Hillsborough is, hanging in there, and they were there last year and knocked off Castleton to go to the region championship last year. So, us top 3 and between Hankinson in there, you never really know. And that's kind of the fun part about it, is our region is so competitive compared to others. And we get to see everybody twice and then see them again in the region tournament. So we like to just put our work in and know that these games are going to lead towards what we want them to, our end goal, and it's competitive.
How does the last thing for you, Sam, how does a spring season different from a winter season? Because winter, it's like November, you're with the girls right away. It almost feels like, Halloween-ish. It kind of almost feels in a roundabout way where maybe there's open gyms and they want to get in, from a player perspective, into, if you make a run, it's into February. Compared to the spring, where the last couple of years we barely had 4 weeks of a regular season before you actually got to postseason. So from a coach's standpoint, what's the difference from a winter to a spring activity for you?
Obviously the length, and then the time you get to spend with the girls. I feel like winter, it can turn into a grind just because you have 20 some games over a long period of time. And the spring, you're outside most of the time. And if you're lucky, you still get that 20 some games, but it's in such like that short 3.5, 4 weeks. I feel like everything's in fast forward. You've got to make adjustments quick. You got to make sure that you're covering all your bases and all the knowledge and all the IQ that your kids need to know. And you really have to trust your kids to be able to put in some time and effort, because not every outfielder does the same thing what infielders do, and not every batter needs the same thing. Everybody needs to be connected and communicated with, and a coach in a different way. So I feel like there's still a sense of like chaos between the both of them, but very differently. And softball is definitely one that just moves a lot faster because of the time. But, no coach chooses to coach without enjoying it. So I enjoyed the difference in between both of them very, very much.
Hey, Sam, as always, thanks so much for your time. See you at the softball diamond soon, and best of luck this season for the Vikings softball.
Yeah, thanks, Chase.
That again, Sam Brandt, head coach of the Kindred-Richland Vikings, will continue after this on the Coaches Show.
College goes far beyond the buildings, classrooms, and the tests. It's about making new friends, trying something different, and discovering your purpose. It's about getting involved, supporting your community, and joining the conversation. It's about learning, growing, and finding your passion. This is not your average classroom. This is the University of Minnesota Crookston.
Lee Brothers Sales, Highway 9 in Ada, invites you to order your new Chevrolet vehicles. From the Silverado, Trailblazer, and Traverse, Lee Brothers is your authorized Chevrolet dealer, providing sales and service to the area since 1975. For ordering your vehicles, talk with Mitch Smurfer J. Trust the experts who know your vehicles best and take advantage of great Chevy certified service offers today. Lee Brothers Sales, Highway 9, Ada. Call 218-784-2000.
I'm Tylee Johnson. I'm confident in the arena. And when it's time for college, I'm confident Bank of North Dakota will help me make good student loan decisions. Visit bnd.nd.gov/confident.
I'm Lily Bell. I'm confident on the court, and when it's time for college, I'm confident Bank of North Dakota will help me make good student loan decisions. Visit bnd.nd.gov/confident.
Treat yourself to a great career at American Crystal Sugar Company. Team up with quality people making quality products. Full-time and year-round in a stable business. With great pay and benefits including time off available from day one. American Crystal Sugar Company invests in you to promote your continued growth and career advancement. Grow your career doing your best work within the world's best beet sugar company. Apply online today at AmericanCrystalCareers.com.
Welcome back to the YourLiveEvent.com Coaches Show. I'm Joe Lancello, joined by Jackson Lyngaas, the coach of the Hawley Nuggets softball team. Jackson, you had a 12-12 season last year. How many players do you have back from that team?
Thanks, Joe, for having me on. It's an honor here to be here with you today, too. We returned all of our players from last year, except for one player didn't return this year.
Wow, that's pretty good.
Yeah, we're excited about the girls that return, and we had some postseason success last year too with the younger group, so we're excited to build off that with most of our whole entire team back from last year too.
Yeah, I was looking at the rundown last year, and you guys were kind of streaky. There was, I think, a stretch of I want to say 4 or 6 losses, and then toward the end of the year into the postseason, there were like 4 straight wins.
Yeah, we one of our, with softball, the game it is, it's, we put a lot of emphasis on the pitching, and one of our top pitchers was injured during the middle portion of our season last year, and it just goes to show how valuable that position is too. So we had some, players having to step up, and with the younger team that we had last year and inexperienced at the varsity level, we had some growth that we needed to make, and some, players were put into different positions, and girls, just got welcomed to varsity a little bit quicker than maybe expected to, but, just one player went down, and, other players had to step up. So we worked through that challenging stretch that we went on last year. It was, some ups and downs too, but in the end, it worked out really well for us once we got to the postseason too.
Well, you mentioned pitching. Let's start there with who you'll have in the circle for the Nuggets this year.
Yes, we returned 3 sophomore pitchers this year. Egan Hastings, McKenna Walker, and Mallory Halverson. All 3 saw a lot of innings for us last year in the circle and last summer too, and got to gain that varsity experience. And Egan's been on the varsity for a couple of years now too, so she was ready to step in there last year and give us some good innings. And towards the postseason as well, she really, we rode Egan pretty hard, and she was ready for that moment too. And she works on her her craft all year round and puts a lot of time into softball. So she's really excited for this spring to return and kind of be our ace this year again too.
3 freshmen last year. Wow, that is throwing kids into the fire.
Yeah, it sure was.
What do you see as some other strong points for the Hawley Nuggets softball team this year?
Yeah, so with good pitching, we had some pretty good defense behind them. Our pitchers do a good job of mixing it up and keep batters guessing too. But our defense always on their toes. We didn't allow very many runs last year when even whoever was in the circle, it didn't matter. We had a good, strong defense behind them. And then kind of the top of our lineup last year was a stronger suit for us too. Just a lot of different ways to score and move runners around bases towards the top. So that's a strength we have again returning for us this year. And just hope to develop the depth that we need to have this year to make take that next step that we want to take.
Who are some of the people that will be in your lineup? Some names that people will be familiar with.
So Egan Hastings, a big one in the lineup too. Just will be kind of around the 3, 4, 5 spot, I imagine. And then Hannah Stotts has been with us for varsity. She started some games as a 7th grader, so she's now a sophomore. So she returns some experience that will be really valuable at the top of the lineup. She has some speed and just good on base percentage. She finds ways to get on and move around the bases pretty quickly too. Below her, it'll be a mixture of Addie Sandvik, she's a sophomore, and Emily Vettern, she's a sophomore catcher for us too. Both of those two have some power too to help hopefully bring in our top 2 batters in our lineup. And Brooke Geffrey returns. She's started some games as a 7th and 8th grader too for us. So those girls were young when they started out, and now it's their almost their 3rd, 4th years on varsity. So some of those girls will be towards the top. Alex Guderjohn, she's a junior outfielder for us too. She made a good run in our postseason last year, and last summer had a good summer and worked on her game a lot in the off season too. So we hope to see some of them carry on some of the success they had at the end of last season and into summer. And just a year older makes a lot of difference for these kids too. Not having much experience at the varsity level last year, we know a little bit more about them. They know a little bit more about the varsity speed and the game too. So there's a good kind of core group there. And then some others that saw a lot of varsity last year: Sella Fleming, Faith Sanis, McKenna Walker too in the lineup as well. So bringing back a lot of players is exciting this year. We had a lot of freshmen last year and sophomores that played a lot, and we're excited for them to be all back this year.
Now, how do you see other teams in the section or even in the Heart of Lakes Conference?
Yes, we have a pretty competitive section. DGF won our section last year. They beat us in the section championship and then went on to win the state tournament last year. So they represented our section very, very well last year. And that was exciting for, a team coming from our section and in northern Minnesota to go down into Mankato and represent and take home the championship. It's really exciting for them and good for softball in our area. And they return a lot of players this year too. So they'll be a big challenge for us this year as well. And there's some other teams. Thief River Falls is always tough. Barnesville is always a challenge as well. Breckenridge and Wahpeton co-op for softball, and they returned a few players that are really key for them too. So there's some good teams around us, and it's good to DGF put us on the map, and it shows that there's some good softball up here in our area, and we're excited to get to play some of those teams during our regular season as well. It'll be a fun spring here.
Jackson Lyngaas is the coach of the Hawley Nugget softball team, and you mentioned DGF. You go right into the fire, or you will, weather permitting, on April the 11th when you play at DGF.
Yeah, they're starting off with a bang right away with them. April 11th, we get to go to their place and take on the defending state champion. So it's going to be a really exciting game. It's just having that game out there as the first one. It's extra motivation, to keep our focus and working hard while we're inside right now. And get to face the best right away and the section favorite to win our section again this year, returning all the players that they do. So it's exciting. It'll be a fun doubleheader. Hopefully we get that in here soon.
And your home opener is set for tax day on April 15th, the home game against Fergus Falls. Now, will you be playing at the high school or will you be playing at the rodeo grounds?
Yeah, we get to play at our rodeo grounds field. So it's just off of Highway 10 on the east side of town there too. So it'll be fun to welcome them to our place this year. They bring back a really strong pitcher and player and Rylan Crean too. So that'll be two tough pitchers and teams that we face right off the bat this year.
Well, we'll see how the Hawley Nuggets do this year on the softball field. Jackson Lyngaas, thanks very much and best of luck this season.
Thanks a lot, Joe. I appreciate it.
And we'll continue with the YourLiveEvent.com Coaches Show, brought to you by the Hillsborough Economic Development Commission, right after this. Continuing with the YourLiveEvent.com Coaches Show, brought to you by the Hillsborough Economic Development Corporation. I'm Joe Lancello with Jesse Rostad, the coach of the Norman County East Ulen Hitterdall Titans. And Jesse, I understand this is not only your first year coaching, but your first year teaching, or at least first year coaching high school.
Yes, that is correct. All of my coaching experience thus far has been summer baseball, whether it's Babe Ruth or Legion baseball. So a little bit change of pace had a little career change this year at 45. Decided to go into teaching and coaching. So it's been a fun ride so far.
Okay. What do you think about the team you've got assembled this year?
It's a good group of kids, good mix of upperclassmen, underclassmen. I think right now we have 21 kids from 9th grade to 12th grade. But yeah, so far it's a hardworking group. They're very coachable kids. It's been fun so far. So
I'm looking at the roster I have from last season, and 4 seniors graduated. Who are some of the standouts that are back from last year's team?
Well, we have Aiden Flayton, the senior. He actually pitched for us last night in the first game, so he'll pitch, play some infield for us. Cade Bentley is a senior. He'll play outfield for us. We have Ian Jacobson. He's a junior, and he'll pitch and play infield for us. Those are our 3 probably main returning players. They actually are also our captains that were named last week. So those 3 are probably our main returning players. And then we have a good mix we have some good sophomores and a couple more seniors that hopefully will contribute a little bit too. So.
Okay, you had mentioned your first game. That was against Lake of the Woods. That was kind of a slugfest, 14-10, wasn't it?
Yeah, it ended up being like a football score, but we were in control the first 5 innings. I think we were up 8-2. Had to take our starter out because of the pitch limit, and the bullpen struggled a little bit to throw strikes, and it kind of unraveled a little bit in the 6th. But we fought back a little bit and came up short. But it was good for 5 innings. Like you said, it's a marathon, not a sprint.
As far as the season goes, because you've got so many games compacted, and we can just be thankful that we don't have flooding as we did a year ago.
Yeah.
To make things even worse.
Exactly. This is my first year. I'm super fortunate because I've heard some stories over the last few years of a lot of time indoors and getting a little cabin fever. But I've been lucky. This is my first year that haven't had a ton of time in the gym, couple weeks, and we've been outside quite a bit. There's a little stretch where we had to stay inside because of that recent snow that we had. But for the most part, we're ready to rock and roll, I think, outside.
Yeah, being able to throw outside is a lot better than inside, especially if you're an outfielder.
For sure. Well, we stress the long toss for sure for a lot of our guys, and you can't really do that inside in the gym. So once we get outside, we can really stretch the arms out and work on the long toss. And so it's been good. I think the kids' arms are in shape. I think we're ready to go. We just gotta we got to kind of narrow down our pitching. I guess that's the biggest thing right now. We lost 2 really good arms last year, so we're trying to find some replacements for those 2. So that's going to be, you can never have enough pitching, and
exactly.
That's where we're going to have to find a way to have a couple underclassmen step up. So
especially with the pitch counts in place.
Definitely.
If somebody has a bad day.
Yes, for sure. And that's kind of what we ran into last night. Our starter, Aiden Flayton, hit that 100 mark. So we had to take him out, and we had to kind of go with someone that was a little less experienced. And like I said, it kind of unraveled on us a little bit, but good experience. There's a lot of positive we took out from the game last night, and we played good for 5 innings. And so hopefully we can build on that. We don't want to peak too early either.
Mm-hmm. What do you see as the strong points of the Titans?
I would say once we get everyone here, I would say our defense probably. I think once we get our defense in place, I think we have, as long as we throw strikes, make the other team put it in play, I think our defense will be good. Our hitting, I see some bright spots, I think, in our lineup. I think the big question mark is going to be pitching, finding some other guys besides our main 3 that we have. We have 2 or 3, I think, that are pretty reliable. And then anything past that, we're going to have to get creative a little bit.
Okay. Since you weren't in the area last season, or at least I don't think so, what have you heard about other teams in the area and who might be your biggest competition?
I think, from what I'm hearing, it's a pretty competitive conference. I'm excited to kind of get to know some of the teams. Some of the teams that I'm familiar with from summer baseball, obviously, are Ada, Foston. We play those teams in the summer. Obviously Foston had an amazing year last year. Winning the state championship was pretty cool. So, Ada and Foston are the 2 teams that stand out as far as what I know most about, I guess.
Okay.
But I know it's a very competitive conference. So.
All right. And we're talking about a busy schedule on Thursday. You'll be at Sacred Heart this coming Thursday, the 11th, I think that is. And then on tax day, you go to Carlstead to take on the Northern Freeze. And then you're at home against Winnimac on the 16th. And are all your home games in Ulen, or will there be some at Twin Valley?
Yeah, we play all our home games right in Ulen. We have a nice little ball field right by the school. So I think that stretch you were talking about is going to be it's a key stretch for us, a lot of conference games. So hopefully that we can, I'm hoping that we can play well during that stretch. But all of our home games are in Ulen.
Yeah, I'm remembering Sacred Heart had a respectable run last year in the region, and Northern Freeze had their moments too. But that's the thing about baseball. Every day you start over.
For sure. Yeah. And I'm not being super familiar with all the teams. I know everyone graduates a few key guys every year and they have to try to find some underclassmen to step up. And so it's always fun to kind of see the new crop of players coming through the ranks.
Are you getting some help from Mark Hamburger, the former coach, about what to look for from other teams?
Yeah, he's been a great help with the transition for sure. He did it a lot of years, and there's a lot of admin stuff that maybe I wasn't aware of. So I'm kind of learning on the fly, and parents have been a big help. And, I'm trying to, obviously coach the team, but there's a lot more to just writing the lineup out. And, he's been a great help, great sounding board. He's always there for troubleshooting when I need him. So he's been awesome. So I really appreciate helping me with the transition for sure.
Okay. Well, Jesse Rostad, best of luck in your first season as coach of the Norman County East Ulen Heritage Titans, and hopefully we'll see you down the line.
Yeah, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Okay, that's Jesse Rostad, coach of the Norman County East Ulen Heritage Titans. We'll continue with the YourLiveEvent.com Coaches Show right after this.
Live, work, and play here in Hillsborough, North Dakota. The Hillsborough Economic Development Committee can assist you with information and support for business and housing. Experience Hillsborough. More at 104.
Time now for our senior spotlight on the YourLiveEvent.com Coaches Show. Derek Carpenter of Hatton-Northwood is our senior spotlight today. Derek, I know you're getting baseball season underway, and that is your main sport, or at least from what I saw of you last year at the region tournament, it would be easy to understand if it was.
Yeah, that's definitely out of the three that I play, that's my favorite one.
What positions do you play?
Mostly I typically play at shortstop and pitcher, but I get moved around to first base, third base, catcher. Last game we played in Park River, I even played center field. So
I was going to say also maybe your main position would be bat, but I don't want to discredit your work in the field because you do hit the ball pretty well.
Yeah, it's something that's typically come easy for me. Obviously, there's some changes I've had to make over time with swing, stance, approach, all that. But yeah, that's probably the most fun part of the game.
And I understand that you spent some time this fall playing for a group called Perfect Game, which people may not be familiar with, but if I understand correctly, they put together like regional all-star teams, and you get to play against other regions, and you're facing better competition.
Yeah, those are you're seeing basically the best of the best at your age group, and the best way to get up to that level is to play against guys that are that level.
How'd you do this fall?
I did pretty good. It took a few at bats to get used to seeing a little bit more velocity, maybe a little bit better breaking stuff, but I eventually figured it out. I think I batted somewhere around like that 400 mark. So
nice. Have you picked out a college for where you would want to play? I assume you want to play baseball in college.
Yep. This fall I signed with the University of Minnesota Crookston.
I know they like local players, and actually somebody I think you saw last year at the region tournament, Cole Hebel from Hillsborough Central Valley, is playing there now and off to a good start.
Yep. Yeah, they next year the team will have 4 former Region 2 athletes. So
Derek, do you play any other sports in school?
Yeah, I play basketball and football for us here in Hatton.
Okay. What are some things that you like to do when you're not fielding ground balls or taking batting practice?
I do a lot of like sports stuff. I mean, that takes the majority of my time, whether it's lifting or getting in the gym, shooting hoops. But other than that, I'm a big fan of just like doing anything I can with my friends outside of school, maybe going out to eat, something like that, or fishing in the summertime, going out to Devil's Lake or Stump or Golden.
Okay. Do you have a favorite baseball player, someone you try to emulate as a hitter or playing in the field?
Yeah, I take a lot of my inspiration from Derek Jeter. That's my namesake. And yeah, I try to, like, some of his mental approaches at the plate and the way he played at shortstop, I try to emulate some of those.
Okay. Do you have any other favorite athletes?
I'm a big fan of Magic Johnson in the NBA. I love flashy passes and assists like that on the court. So, but basically anyone who I think plays the game the right way for any of the 3 sports, I like to watch those guys.
Okay. Is it tough playing for your dad, Dennis Carpenter, who's the head coach at Hatton-Northwood?
It's different than not playing for your dad for sure, because a lot, you get the jokes about like being the coach's kid who gets to play shortstop and bat second or whatever. But he definitely puts more expectation on me, but he knows I can handle it. He knows from raising me what I can take and what I can't take. So he knows if there's a problem he needs to fix, he can chew me out for it instead of chewing out some other kids, because he knows that I can handle it.
Yeah, that is true. Some people respond better to a pat in the back and others better to a pat in the butt.
Yep.
Let me ask some other things, Derek. Do you have a favorite pregame meal?
I typically just eat whatever I can get my hands on before a game. But if I had my choice, getting like a bacon cheeseburger from our gas station here in town, that would be where I'd go every time.
Better than Skittles. I've heard some football players say that.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of like sweets and candy before games just because it's not a whole lot of fun playing on an upset stomach.
True. What would you like to do beyond college?
Yeah, so at college, I'm planning on studying exercise science. So after that, I'm hoping that I can go somewhere and get a physical therapy degree. And I would love to be a physical therapist, and working with athletes like in that field would be what I would love to do the most. Around here, you don't really get to pick and choose. You take that physical therapy job and you're working with all sorts of people. But, if I could be like an athletic trainer for a team, that'd be a lot of fun.
Oh, yeah. See all the feet and ankles you could do.
Yep.
What are your favorite classes?
I'm a big math guy, like algebra, college algebra. That is where it's at for me. It's always come pretty easy for me. So, and granted, I still have to work for it in some of those tougher classes, but I would say math is my favorite.
There was an old story that Ted Williams, the Hall of Fame baseball player, could calculate his batting average as he was getting out of the batter's box and going to first base. Are you like that?
I don't think I could calculate it like during a game or anything, but last year I kept all that in my phone. I kept a little stat sheet in my phone. I would calculate like on base percentage, batting average, slugging percentage, stuff like that. So I'm not quite like Ted Williams, but
okay. I understand his book on hitting, though, is one that, even though I think the last one he wrote was like in the mid-60s or so, it's still very much worth reading and following. I don't know if that's been republished since, but it should be.
Right.
I've been hugging a lot of time talking about baseball. What are some other favorite things of yours?
That's a good question. I like I mentioned earlier, I like fishing a lot. I don't really get out and hunt too much, but I mean, anything, I'm a big social guy. I like to talk. I like to interact with new people. So things that I can do where I get to meet new people, see new faces, those are fun. I like to golf a lot too in the summer. And I had to come to terms with the fact that my golf swing is never going to be good as long as I keep a good baseball swing. So once I got over that hump, golf got a lot more enjoyable for me.
It's the hockey players that seem to have good golf games also.
Yeah, I've noticed that. I played against a few Canadian teams in a Cal Ripken tournament when I was 12 or something. And yeah, those kids have really pretty swings, those hockey kids that play baseball and play golf.
Okay, as far as the upcoming season coming up for Hatton-Northwood, what are your goals for this year?
I think our team sort of, I know the seniors on our team have mentioned that we want to shock a few people in our region this year and make it to the championship and try to get a ticket to the state tournament this year. But we also have a lot of young guys, so I think our goal is to, get a winning sort of attitude back in the program. We had success back in 2012. We made the state tournament, and kind of since then it's been somewhat down. So we're really trying to get back into the winning attitude and playing as many competitive games as we can.
All right. We look forward to seeing Derek Carpenter play for the Hatton-Northwood Thunder baseball team. That's our senior spotlight for this week. Derek, thanks very much. Best of luck in your senior year and beyond at Crookston.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Derek Carpenter, our senior spotlight on the YourLiveEvent.com Coaches Show, brought to you by the Hillsboro Economic Development Corporation. And we'll be right back after this.
That does it for this week's edition of the YourLiveEvent.com Coaches Show. Join us for one more week. We'll put a bow on the YourLiveEvent.com Coaches Show on Wednesday, April the 17th. Until then, I'm Chase Miller. Thanks so much for tuning in. And again, the YourLiveEvent.com Coaches Show is presented to you by the Hillsborough Economic Development Corporation.